Pascal Hunt has lamented the difficulty faced by civilians in Gaza. Hunt said civilians in Gaza struggle to survive the dangers of hostilities, cope with relentless displacement, and endure the consequences of being deprived of urgent humanitarian assistance. The Commissioner General of UNRWA, the UN agency that supports Palestinian refugees, Philip Lazzarini, said he had no doubt that Israel is using food aid, humanitarian aid, as a weapon of war against Gaza.
Absolutely no doubt, and this is what we have witnessed during these last 19 months, but especially during these last 2 months. That will be qualified as a war crime. The qualification will come from the ICJ, not from me.
Recall, Israel had already sealed the gates of Gaza since the beginning of March and has blocked all shipments of humanitarian aid, including food and medical supplies. In the U.S., 59 white South Africans have arrived where they are to be granted refugee status. The group of white South Africans who landed at the Dulles Airport near Washington, D.C. were received with a warm welcome from U.S. authorities. President Donald Trump once said the refugee applications for the country's Afrikaner minority had been expedited as they were victims of racial discrimination.
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa, and the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it.
However, the South African government has said the group were not suffering any such persecution that would merit refugee status. The Trump administration has altered all other refugee admissions, including those for applicants from war zones, a move Human Rights Watch described as cruel racial twist, saying that thousands of people, many of them black and Afghan refugees, had been denied refuge in the U.S. Still on stories concerning the U.S. President, Donald Trump is on the first major international trip of his second term as he works to shore up relationships with a trio of key allies and prove his might as a deal maker on the world stage. The U.S. President is hoping to secure significant new investment in the U.S. in the 4-day trip to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. A lavish state dinner is also planned in Riyadh later. Trump also made Saudi Arabia the first major visit of his first term, breaking with the tradition of U.S. presidents visiting the UK, Canada, or Mexico. Still to come on Globe File, Australian Liberal Party names first female leader.
You can listen to Adami Mogo 93.1 FM from any part of the world. Download the Adami Mogo 931 FM app from Google Play Store and Radio Garden. And follow us on Adami Mogo 93.1 FM on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have eyewitness stories, clips exclusive to share, contact the Adami Mogo FM newsroom via mail at newsroom@adamimogofm.com. Or you can dial 070-634-03583. You can dial 090-319-69629. Adami Mogo 93.1 FM Lagos, voice of the light.
You're still listening to Globe File on Adami Mogo 93.1 FM. Australia's Liberal Party has for the first time chosen a woman as its leader, with Susan Lee to take over from Peter Dutton after he led the party to a bruising election loss. Lee's appointment comes as Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was sworn in at Government House today, following his Labour Party's landslide election win.
Anthony Norman Albanese, do solemnly and swear that I will well and truly serve the Commonwealth of Australia, her land and her people in the office of Prime Minister.
Speaking to Newsman in an interview, Lee said she wanted to help the party rebuild its relationship with Australians, particularly the women and young people who felt they had been neglected.
I want to do things differently, and we have to have a fresh approach. I want to harness the talents of every single person in our party room going forward to develop the clear, articulate policy agenda that does meet Australians where they are, to develop robust policy processes, to value those contributions, and I can't wait to get started, along with Ted, on that important task.
She also added that the party is determined to have a Liberal Party that represents modern Australia. Earlier, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was sworn in for a second term today after his Labour Party rode a voter backlash against global instability caused by Trump's policies to a come-from-behind victory in the May 3 national election. In a separate beat, Bangladesh Electoral Commission has suspended the registration of ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina Awami's League effectively, barring the party from contesting the next national elections. Election Commission Secretary Akhtar Ahmed said with the Home Ministry's ban on all activities of the Awami League and its affiliated organizations, the Election Commission has decided to suspend the party's registration. The move comes after the interim government of Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus banned all activities of the Awami League under the Anti-Terrorism Act after days of protest. The government cited national security threats and an ongoing war crime investigation against the party's top leadership over deaths of hundreds of protesters. Talking business now, the United States will quote the low-value tariff on China's shipments, further de-escalating a potentially damaging trade war between the world's two largest economies. While their joint statement in Geneva did not mention the de minimis duties, the White House order released later said the levies will be reduced to 54% from 120%, at a flat rate of $100 to remain starting from May 14. The move comes several hours after Beijing and Washington announced a truce in their first trade spat after weekend talks in Geneva, with both sides agreeing to unwind most of the tariffs imposed on each other's goods since early April. The de minimis exemption for items valued at up to $800 and sent from China via postal services were previously able to enter the United States duty-free and with minimal inspections. Talking sports now, Andy Murray will no longer be working as Novak Djokovic's coach. Djokovic, in a post expressing his gratitude to the coach, said he wanted to thank Andy for all the hard work, fun and support that he had provided him over the last 6 months on and off the court. He said the decision, which is by mutual agreement, means Murray will not be by Djokovic's side when he chases an 8th Wimbledon title in July. Djokovic, who is a 24-time Grand Slam champion, joined forces with Murray in November. Under Murray, the Serb reached the semi-finals of the Australian Open, ultimately retiring injured after losing the first set. Just before we go on entertainment, reality TV star Kim Kardashian is in Paris to appear in court as a witness to a burglary case which saw her held up at gunpoint with millions of dollars of jewelry stolen. Reports have it that the suspects are accused of tying up the billionaire celebrity with zip ties and duct tape before making off her jewels, including a $4 million engagement ring given to her by her then-husband, Kanye West. Kardashian had earlier narrated our deal in a 2020 interview, fighting back tears as she recalled her fears of being raped that night.
Policemen with masks on, but they brought in the concierge from downstairs, handcuffed, with a gun up to him. So they were yelling at me in French. They kept on saying, the ring, the ring. And I was just so startled. I was like, you know, what? Like, it didn't compute to me for a minute. And I had put it up by the side of my bed. So I handed him my ring. And then he grabbed me, and I was wearing a robe, and I wasn't wearing anything under it. I want to ruin my makeup.
However, 71-year-old Eunice Arbus, who is among the 10 suspects standing trial, admitted that he and others who took part in the robbery did not know who Kardashian was. Before we sign off on Global, here's a recap of the biggest stories. We told you that the World Bank has described Nigeria's 2025 federal budget as overtly ambitious, warning that the federal government may be forced to turn to the Central Bank of Nigeria's Ways and Means facility to finance likely revenue shortfalls. It was also in this news that U.S. President Donald Trump is on the first major international trip of his second term as he works to shore up relations with a trio of key allies and prove his might as a deal-maker on the world stage. Finally, we told you that Australia's Liberal Party has for the first time chosen a woman as its leader, with Susan Ley to take over from Peter Dutton. That's Global as edited by Abimbola Ogboi. Thanks for listening. Do join us at 2 o'clock for more stories on The Briefing. My name is Olugbeminiyi. Thanks for listening.